Welcome to the AW Services channel. Today's video is the AKAI S2800 digital sampler. In my previous video I'd gone through and replaced the floppy drive for a floppy USB emulator. So that's now installed in the machine. And the other biggest problem I have with this machine, being 30 years old or so, 1992, is it's lost its luminescence. So the machine is now powered on, and the LCD screen, which should be a vibrant blue colour, has lost a lot of its vibrancy and brightness over the years. You can see it in a darkened room, but you've really got to squint and focus at it. So today's video, we're going to be replacing that with a Retroillumination kit. I purchased this from a chap on eBay called Matt. I'll post all the details to where I purchased it from within the video. What you're getting is a very well manufactured, hot laminated electroluminescent EL sheet panel, which has been made specifically for this machine, and that will bring us our illumination back to our front screen. Also, I'll list the price as well, so you can see where I've got this from, and you can fit one yourself, which is relatively straightforward, and I'm going to do now in the video. So please excuse me if you hear me coughing, wheezing or breathlessness. I'm still trying to recover from having COVID, which I say got me quite badly, as it took me off of my feet for a long time. So please excuse that in the video. So as I've mentioned in my previous video, ensure the machine is switched off and it's unplugged from the mains to avoid electric shock. You need to remove the case lid, which is 5 screws in total, 2 in each side, 1 small in the rear. Doing this on the lounge floor today just to give it a bit of a better contrast. The last video was a bit doom and gloom. Take your lid off, put that to one side. So to access our LCD panel, we need to remove the front plate of the machine. So to do that, you're going to need to take off, very carefully if possible, the 2 front knobs from the main volume and the record level, and put those in a tub to one side. Gently pull off the rotary encoder button. I'm going to leave the contrast brightness button in, and you need to be very mindful that if you have fitted a Gotek emulator with the rotary encoder pot on the front, you need to be very careful not to shear that off and damage that, and also remove your USB thumb drive. So we need to remove the screws on the top of the front plate panel. I hope the camera is picking this up in good clarity so you can see what I'm doing and follow along at home. It's also good to keep the screws separate, because there may be different screws. They may be self-tapping, or they may be standard machine screws. So I've got a separate tub for my front panel screws to go into. If you're new to my channel and you like the content, please subscribe. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up as well, which will help my channel grow. Now you need to put the machine on its side. As I've said in my previous video, don't put it on its back edge, because you can damage the SCSI port. And if you've got the older SCSI port with the spring retainer clips, you could snap those off. Another safety warning is you're dealing with equipment that's over 30 years in age, so you need to be very mindful of the amount of force and things you intentionally put on things, because you could damage something. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in our top cover panel. I'm going to place it on the floor so I have my machine slightly uplifted off the ground. So with our now front panel removed, and put to one side. You need to be very careful that you don't damage any of the control surfaces or the buttons. I'm now going to need to cut. I'm just going to lift the camera up. I'm going to have to cut this cable tie which holds this section of ribbon cables together to loosen up the power supply cable for our EL screen, or our liquid crystal display in this case. You need to be very careful when cutting this that you don't damage any ribbon cables or any other cables connected to any other parts of the control surfaces. Again, you're dealing with old equipment here, so take your time, take it easy, take it slowly. I've identified our screen cable. It's a red and black cable and it's covered within a piece of PVC tubing which plugs into the main motherboard next to the inverter driver for the screen. I'm just going to get a small screwdriver, bear with me. And with a small screwdriver, it's similar to a Molex connector, so you're going to have to lift one side of the retainer clip on the inverter lead to release the cable, which I have now done here. I'll rearrange the camera again. So that is now the power supply cable for our screen. We need to go ahead now and gently remove the 4 screws holding the entire PCB. That's printed circuit board in normal English for those that don't quite understand electronics. We need to remove these screws gently. This PCB printed circuit board is quite old again, so you need to be very mindful that you don't damage that. With this as well, they claim that it's a solderless job. It is solderless in respect of you don't need a soldering iron to put the new one in. However, you may want to, at some point, whether you do it now or whether you do it later, is de-solder the actual screen itself. So we have our screen, we have a ribbon cable still attached with our main data input to our screen on the left hand side here, where we have the screen out enough so that we can work on and access the power side. So we need to gently pass through our power supply plug attached to the screen, and this will now be redundant, so you can desolder that if you wish and keep that spare, or you can also cut it off as well. So all I'm going to do is very gently with a pair of small electrical cutters is cut the wire free from the machine. I'm going to keep that in a box with a machine just for a rainy day in case I need it. So with our new Retroillumination kit, you need to be very mindful with electroluminescent panels that you do not bend them, you do not curve them, because they may crack, and you could also damage the material inside that reacts to the power to energize it. So always keep it flat. So with this installation, this panel has been hot laminated, which gives it stability. Unlike some of them which flop around, this one has actually been designed so it has ears, as you can see in the camera here, which actually locate with the screw holes. So without bending it, we need to pass our power supply cable through the main chassis of the front of the machine, which is the reverse of what we've just done with the other one. Our new EL kit basically slides in behind the original factory LCD screen, like so. So we've now got that in place. I'm now going to give you another safety warning, just to be very mindful. I don't take any responsibility for any risks that you take part in yourself when doing this. I'm now plugging in the machine again. The machine is now live and it's powered up. And our screen is now clearly visible, and I can now read that with a legible text. So that works. It's best to test it now before you go any further, because you could, you need to get it right. And also, just a tip for you, I'll just take this out and show you again. So the EL panel, which is energized and now live, has a darker side and it has a clear side which appears to be a salmon pink colour. That salmon pink colour needs to be facing outwards, okay? It's very easy to slide that into place and you'll know when that's in location, and also the screw holes that have been provided where they've been laminated also line up as well. So reassembly, you need to be very careful, very slow, to ensure you get it right and you don't damage the panel. It also helps if you've got a screwdriver that's been energized and slightly magnetic, because it does help you hold and locate the screws, because sometimes it can be a bit fiddly, and sometimes the screwdriver and the screws will pop off and fly everywhere, which can be quite frustrating, as I'm now experiencing myself. All you need to do is make sure, it's like fitting a car wheel basically. You just need to ensure you put the screws in the opposite corner of each one that you do, and just gently nip those up, but not tighten them just yet. So our EL panel is pushed in all the way. From what I believe, the electroluminescent panel is not polarity dependent. Polarity means that a certain way has to be plugged in, so you've got positive on one side, negative conductors on the other. But I've plugged it in straight away and I tested it and it did work, so I would say confidently that there aren't any issues. So what I'm going to do now is, because the cable that's been supplied with this kit is quite long, I'm gently going to fold it. I'll try to bring the camera in and give you a bit of a better view. So there's our cable. I folded it. I need to make sure that that is plugged in fully onto the main power supply pins. There's 2 pins. Make sure that that locks into place and doesn't fall off. So this white box here, that is the power supply. So Nishia is, I think, Chinese or Japanese LED company that make LEDs, and illumination have been for years. This is the inverter driver that supplies the power to the original screen, and the actual plug for that is this black wire that goes in beside it, and that just plugs in. Just put it back on the floor. It doesn't have a clip on it, so it only goes in one way, but you need to make sure that that one way stays there, it doesn't move. I'm just going to pass a small thin cable tie back through all of the original wiring looms and secure those into place. And I'm also going to trim off the excess of our cable tie. I'm now going to reattach the power cable to the machine just to ensure that it works still. So we've got screen illumination or dimming on, dimming off, contrast down, contrast on, and that still works, which is good news. So we need to take our machine, and we now need to go ahead and reverse our steps and reattach the front panel of the machine. If you've not taken the machine apart before, you might want to, with a damp cloth or duster, just dust all the inside of this. If it's never been taken off of the machine before, it may become a bit dirty, so it may require a bit of a clean and a freshen up. One part that's missing from my machine, so I'm going to have to take it apart again, but I'm not going to make a video on it, is when I had my machine, within the front face here for where the main power rocker switch goes, there should be a black surround that's actually the same shape and profile as the power switch, which gives that a nice finish. Mine was missing, so I went onto some of the Facebook forums, and a very kind gentleman in Italy said he had one. I've offered him money because I believe that you pay your way for things. Generosity is always good, but you must make sure that you look after others. So I offered him some money, but he swore blankly that he didn't want any money. But you know, so many good people in the world, and people like that need praise, so thank you to him. I'm now going to reattach our front panel and line that up on the main chassis of the machine, gently sliding it on, so our GoTech, as you can see, is framed nicely. So 6 screws. You also need to make sure that you don't drop anything inside the machine also, because that could short it out. Because these are only self-tappers, that means they are threaded mini bolts basically. And the machine chassis, or the metal frame of the machine, has been tapped for a thread. You don't over tighten them. Ah, okay. So spotted automatically that I have, because my enter button was somewhat loose the other day, I noticed, when I received the machine. It's actually broken off of its assembly, so I'm actually going to repair that tomorrow with some hot glue, so it stays in its place and it doesn't fall out. But for now, I've put it back inside the front of the machine. I'm going to gently see if I can hold it in place with a small pair of pliers. Quite tricky, and then reposition the front of the machine, hoping that I get that back to where it should be. But yes, that's it, and I will repair that tomorrow. But it works. It's an old machine, so you know, things like that will happen. I will try to go online and see if anyone's breaking the machine for a spare set of buttons, which I think you can still buy from certain companies. Or if not, try to fix that with a small bit of epoxy resin so it sits within its frame. Three screws on top of the machine, 3 screws on the bottom, if you do a lot of electronics or a lot of tinkering, having good tools does help. I mentioned in my last video, my electric screwdriver is a near enough copy of a Black & Decker that was made in the 90s, which I used to have, and the batteries all died. But this is a part side one from Lidl. It wasn't expensive. It does come with a full box of tips and bits in there, which are very helpful, but I only really use it for electronics. It saves a lot of repetitive turning of screws. So we need to now put our machine knobs back in. Our rotary encoder knob just gently pushes on, and then we have our record level and master volume. I believe the record level knob in its orientation was in the red, was the red knob, and our main volume was the white knob, but I can refer back on the video later if I need to. I'm just going to make sure that my OCD is, my knobs are back in the right orientation for minimum, maximum and middle, like so. Whoops, kick the camera, do apologise. So we have our kit fully installed. Put our machine back on the floor. And now we're just going to reattach the main lid to the machine. Remembering there's 2 screws on each side and 1 on the rear, so you should have 5 in total. Small screw for the rear. Also then we need to put back in our thumb drive USB little memory stick for our GoTech device. And now that is complete. So that is how you fit a Retroillumination panel. I ordered this on eBay. It's taken just a few days to get to me. So yet again, a reliable, credible company or individual that takes pride in his customers. They've ordered something because they need it, and therefore they send it out first class, signed for. I really appreciate that. I would do the same to others as well. But you know, if you want something, you order it, you get it first class. That's fantastic. That's how it should be. With this, we've got full instructions, full safety warnings, and it covers a multitude of machines. This one actually covers the various models which I have, which are, you know, the S2800, also the S1000, which is a very popular machine. But full instructions. I ordered this one on eBay, and I did search AKAI S2800 screen illumination, and I found Matt. So thank you very much to you, Matt. I really appreciate the service that you provided myself. And that is Matt White. I'm not going to show his address, but absolutely amazing. So if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, help the channel, support it, help it grow. I really appreciate that. Until I do another video, thank you very much for watching. Take care.